Hey, you're listening to Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
E.
We got the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view. We're gonna have to stop saying that pay-per-view name soon, and I'm not gonna get a little giggle out of it every time I think about it. But the pre-show match, we had the Cruiserweights on there, as always. Neville defending his title against Akira Tozawa. Didn't go the way you expected.
Once again, he cheated the win.
Pretty much Neville's MO at this point.
Well, let's see. It's obvious he'll get another rematch, but I don't know if this is going to end up being where Akira Tozawa will win the title, or if he'll be the next Austin Aries.
Yeah.
And out of the company in 3 months.
The Cruiserweights just seem to have so much... I don't even know what the term is. They're going through them so quickly. It's like, here's Neville, throw him a challenger, give him a couple shots, spit him back out into nothingness. Here's a new challenger, chew him up, spit him out, let's go. And we're just running through so many people over and over and over.
Neville has held the title 27 days longer than the other three champions held their titles combined.
But even back when it was them, it was still throw them a challenger, swap the title, spin it around. Throw them a challenger, swap the title, spin it around. I don't know what's better, swapping the title every couple weeks or just having Neville beat and demolish everyone that's in the Cruiserweight division. But yeah, as you alluded to there, Austin Aries will not be his next challenger. I'm assuming Akira is going to get a couple more, even though the Cruiserweight division is so notorious for just throwing them out after they're done with them. I'm hoping we're going to do something here, that the Titus Brand storyline was at least for something.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Basically all we can say at this point is we'll have to wait and see.
Yep. But we can jump onto the main show. The opening match, Bray Wyatt defeats Seth Rollins. And
everybody had a heart attack that Bray won.
Nobody expects it ever, but it happened.
Especially on a pay-per-view.
The theme of this show pretty much is going to be, that was a great match. So I'm going to try to not say it after most matches.
And the other theme is, heels rule.
Oh yeah, of course. Unless your match ends when you're, like, not on the television. But we'll get to that. But yeah, Bray Wyatt picks up the win. There's a bit of a altercation on Raw with the match. Are we moving on with these two?
Who knows? It's very possible that we could end up seeing the return of the Shield. In some form.
Yeah, it was always, they were all on the same show. There was always that option. It definitely seems as though they're interacting with each other a whole lot. It used to be Seth interacting with Roman a lot. But on Raw we did get that Dean-Seth interaction, so could be moving to something.
I just hope it's not they're reuniting the Shield because of the Miztourage. Honestly, I like the Miztourage. I like the concept of it. I like using Bowen and Curtis Axel in this role, but it's not a big enough reason to reform one of the best factions they've ever formed, WWE's ever had.
So as you alluded to there, The Miz retains his Intercontinental title against Dean Ambrose, thanks to the Miztourage. At this point, I really feel like Roman is the missing link in that. He's just so much further up the card, I guess, rather than stooping down to the Intercontinental Championship. And they could still have Universal Championship plans for him. I could see it more as a Dean and Seth fighting off the Miz and being at odds, 2 to 3 odds, and then Roman stepping in for like one night only at like best. But I still think Roman's going to have other plans going forward for the next wee while.
I think SummerSlam, I honestly think we're going to have a triple threat for the Universal Championship. If not triple threat, a fatal four-way.
I had fatal four-way in my head. We'll get there. We got a lot of other great matches to get through before we get to the Universal Championship. Big Cass defeats Enzo, 5 minutes.
It was good. It got Cass over as a heel. one of the craziest spots was when Cass literally threw Enzo out of the ring.
Yeah. It was pretty much the whole match was just to do exactly that, is to make Cass look like a legitimate big man heel, and that's what that match did. It did that to perfection. Beating up on Enzo generally does that. I don't know what we're going to be doing with Enzo going forward, but it looks as though Big Cass is at least going to be onwards and upwards.
I probably wouldn't mind if they put Enzo in the cruiserweight division. He could at least inject some life into that division, and he would easily be the best talker in the entire division.
Would it inject life into the division, or would it suck the life out of Enzo? I know that sounds impossible, but it might.
It's tattooed on his chest. You can't suck the life out of him.
30-minute Iron Man match, Raw Tag Team Championships. Cesaro and Sheamus defeat the Hardy Boys with a score of 4-3.
Match of the night. I think the outcome was the right outcome. I love that they did the whole last second wave off of the pinfall because it couldn't be done because it couldn't get done in time.
Even if it didn't matter.
Well, they would have. Kurt Angle, Kurt Angle would have come out and did sudden death. So
we're not sure. I always thought that sudden death was pretty obvious. That's what's going to happen if it ties for a championship match. But the commentators did say champions retain.
Yeah, because naturally, if a draw occurs, the champion does retain. But of course, I think only once has that actually come into play.
Yeah.
Every other time that there's been a tie at the end of the Iron Man time limit, the authority figure has come out and said, we must have a winner.
That makes sense.
Restart the match on under sudden death rules.
And this is the end for these two's feud. It's over.
Yeah. It's over, and we're pretty dang close to a splendid breakage.
There were some words said during promos that definitely hinted that we're closer than anybody may have expected at the moment. And the Revival making their illustrious return. Pretty good catalyst to do it.
Yeah, especially considering their finisher is called Shattered Machine.
I'm not gonna read into finisher names, but it definitely they're the right people for the job. Essentially, we'll still see.
I think next week we'll see the Broken Hardys
next week
in all its glory.
Okay.
Because a couple weeks ago, Jeff Hardy tweeted out a date. 7/17/17. People said it was for to promote a CD or something. I'd say it's possibly could be for that, but it could also be as a double entendre for the Broken Hardys.
Okay. I'm gonna take the safe bet and say not next week. I'll take every week that's not next week.
Well, all I know is that I will be seeing the non-Broken Hardys Sunday.
The semi-broken. The almost there, but not really there. I do wonder how much of the brokenness comes out at live events, just because they are a little more looser. So you may see them slip into it a little bit, especially if they're meant to be hitting it the next week, as you think.
It's possible. But I am looking forward to that tag team championship match.
Raw Women's Championship. Sasha defeated Alexa, but via countout.
The only face to win a match that was announced.
But do you really win when you don't get the title in a championship match?
Yes and no.
She'll get the W, but she doesn't get the title.
Nope.
So I'd still count this as half a win. Because when you're going into a championship match, winning is being able to take the belt and go home.
Although she did deliver quite the nasty double knee to Alexa Bliss. And came out on top at the end of the segment. So
true.
That's kind of a full-on win.
I'll let you have one out of 8 matches. Yeah, 8. We'll see again. We'll see what's going on with the women's division. For now, it seems as though Nia is still floating around. could come into play a little sooner rather than later. The Intercontinental Championship, we already talked about the outcome and what it means for Ambrose and Miz, but the match itself?
It was a good match. I'm kind of hoping that, I was kind of hoping that would be the end of the feud, but it might not be. But they're definitely using Bo and Curtis to the best that they can right now. And by the way, did Bo go to Disney World or something? Because he seems to have come out as a pirate.
I thought he was like a motorbike gang member, but
yeah,
dude,
DOA rides again.
Definitely a very different look than the suit.
Curtis Axel's in a suit, and in this look, he actually does look a lot like his daddy. No blonde hair, but he does resemble his daddy with this outfit.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit. A match that couldn't fit on the card. We got it on Raw. R-Truth versus Goldust. After all the back and forth.
Yeah, I like where they're going. I hope we really get to see quite a bit of Goldust going forward, at least for one last run. It'll never happen, but I would love to see one last time Shattered Dreams. But it won't happen in PG WWE.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think Goldust, just give him one more run. We just got to get there, roll it through. Don't sort of drop it halfway through. We say that a lot of times. I think Goldust will keep going as long as you're going to let him keep going. In terms of
Goldust would be the
feud.
perfect person to take the Intercontinental Championship from Miz. Because Miz's gimmick is the whole Hollywood stuff. So the original Hollywood comes and takes the title from him.
Yeah, it's an idea. Now we're getting to the meat. The meat of this pay-per-view. Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, ambulance match.
Amazing match. These two just have chemistry for days.
Yeah, the aftermatch as well. Actually, let's get through the match before we get to the aftermatch. It's pretty much a segment all on its own there. But yeah, you were right. Chemistry, the dudes, they worked it. All of the spots, through the LED board, everything that happened in the ring before we got down there. The overall finish in terms of throwing Reigns into the ambulance. The right man won there. We can see it moving forward. Braun technically gets the win, but of course, the stuff after the bell rings happens.
And then a petition goes up online.
If this was the real world, yes, I could see that petition working. But it's wrestling, so get over it. Essentially, Roman Reigns does try to murder Braun Strowman by backing him in an ambulance into a production truck. The entire time during that segment, it seemed as though nobody knew how to open a door. It's all my grandfather was yelling at the television the whole time. Like when Jamie Noble was trying to crowbar it open, he was crowbarring it at the bottom of the door, not at the lock. Ignoring that, super tense.
I just love the idea of Jamie Noble trying to open the door with a crowbar. That just was hilarious to me.
Kind of makes sense. He has no idea about it.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, if you need a crowbar, just go find Mark Henry.
That works. But yeah, Braun, he walks out on his own power, barely.
It reminded me a lot of when the Extreme Rules match between Roman and and Braun, when Roman survived and barely walked away from the carnage.
Yeah. I loved everything about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good match. It was a good thing, and it could possibly be a vehicle for a double turn if they wanted to go that route.
I know the internet were just screaming the words double turn the whole time.
Yeah, Braun definitely came off as a sympathetic face there for him wanting to walk off on his own power.
We're going to stretch it. You guys are going to have to wait for the song for just a little bit more. We'll skip over Heath Slater, Kurt Hawkins, because as funny as it is that it happened pretty much off screen, it went for 2 minutes and Heath Slater picked up the win. we're strapped a little for time. So
Yep, that match was basically just to give the realism for oh crap, we don't know what's going on here. Type of thing.
And it did its job perfectly. Universal Championship, Brock Lesnar, Samoa Joe. The match didn't go for 30 seconds.
No, it went for 6 minutes. Brock's improving. It was a good match. It definitely I think it got Joe over as a viable threat.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people didn't like the fact that it didn't take a lot of damage, though, for him to be beaten.
Yeah.
But, he got suplexed like 10 times.
Yeah.
That kind of does accumulate. And then, of course, the F5 is one of the most devastating finishers WWE's ever had.
Yeah, it feels like in kayfabe, an F5 is like being shot in the foot. It's like you're over unless you really want to get up and get shot in the other foot. It ain't gonna help you.
Definitely not like the AA, which is like the least effective finisher in the history of finishers.
Yeah, we ignore the AA. But it did lead to Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns to decide the number one contender. Could we potentially see a triple threat at SummerSlam, or a one-on-one, or a fatal four-way adding Braun into the mix?
Anything is possible. I almost think triple threat because I almost think the whole segment about the ambulance was to write Braun off TV so he could heal further from his surgery.
Well, SummerSlam's like 6 weeks away, maybe 5. We got a little while. He could heal up and come back. But I think any combination is going to work, and I'll be happy with. The last note for Raw before we go to the song, Kurt Angle, his secret will be revealed next week. So who do you think his illegitimate son's going to be?
I don't know. I'm going to guess Jason Jordan.
Yeah, Jason Jordan's
just for the sake of because the age kind of works. Because Jason Jordan is 28, so that would have made Kurt almost 20 when Jason Jordan would have been born. I've dismissed Chad Gable because Chad is 31, which would have made Kurt 16, and that's kind of a really
possible, but it's not mentioned.
A line to cross for WWE.
Yeah.
Although people said they did attempted murder, why wouldn't they do teenage sex?
Good point.
And I'm like, sponsors.
Yep. So, put your chips on Jason Jordan.
Yeah, although I've seen people try to tie that into the storyline with Shamel and Booker. And I'm like, that happened like 12 years ago.
Yes.
Math doesn't add up.
Math never adds up. But what does is AJ Styles and his music, because he's phenomenal. That's the segue songs playing. And you're back with the Wrestling Roundup. FreeFM 89.0, Grady and Josh. We're on SmackDown. We're on the home stretch of the show. Rusev and Owens, Cena and Styles. Mash them together. You get your AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens for the title. Because AJ now has it for some magical Madison Square Garden reason. And you get your Cena Rusev in the flag match.
Yeah. I've never been so disappointed at the end of a segment involving Kevin Owens in my life. And it's because I wanted to see AJ versus Cena on free TV.
So sad. So sad. You'll have to wait a little bit longer to get that. For the time being, we're gonna sit and get their 2 respective matches at Battleground. And we'll see. You maybe. But I think if they did, it would still be interrupted, so, sucks to be that. Baron Corbin, really wants to kill Shinsuke Nakamura, and we'll get a chance at Battleground.
And the feeling is mutual.
Yeah.
This is a really neat feud. It'll definitely, work on getting them both over. I think Baron needs to win the match, though.
That's the question mark. Who's gonna win?
Although I could easily see Shinsuke winning the match, though.
Yeah.
But I think it needs to be Baron because he's Mr. Money in the Bank after all.
Yeah, but normally Mr. Money in the Bank can quote-unquote take some losses, so, hey, we'll see what happens. Breezango, now we're Walker Texas Ranger for some reason.
That was a funny parody. And next week is going to be X-Files.
The constant genre switches, like, it was great when they did it for, like, a couple shows and then switched, We'll see how constantly switching's going to work. I know they can pull it off, but I do wonder if that means it's starting to wear a little thin on the internals. But we'll see. I'm hoping it doesn't. And then Fatal 5-Way Elimination Match to determine the number 1 contender for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship at SummerSlam. Charlotte, Becky, Natalya, Tamina, Lana. You know, Naomi and Carmella can just take the night off.
Yep. Apparently. I would like Tamina to win.
That's what you thought at Money in the Bank.
Well, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
But I knew Carmella was going to win. I just wanted Tamina. I'd love a push for Tamina.
I think you got a good chance here. I think after Lana's performance against Naomi, you can almost counter out here. Charlotte and Natalya appear to be having their own little thing at the moment, so you can almost count them out. It's pretty much Becky or Tamina. And since Naomi's a face, that would lead to Tamina. The math adds up.
But they'll probably have Lana win the match somehow. Because that's what they do.
Yeah, that's what they do. But yeah, we're just giving our women's champion another 3 months. They're fighting at SummerSlam, so that's another, 6 months of just having a reign with barely anyone fighting her, other than Lana over and over and over. But we'll see what happens in the division. Maybe they change it up. Either way, we're out of time. It's been great talking to you. You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Wrestling Roundup Radio, Twitter page, twitter.com/Wrestling Radio. And we'll see you next week.